want to kill God's children, the people of God, the people of Liberia, destroy the prophet. You think God is not on the throne? He's on the throne. He will defend our cause. But he said, watch, fight, and pray. I'm a watcher, I'm a prayer maker, and I'm a fighter. But there must be justice. I am controlled, my friends, in all I do by the laws of our land. And those laws I promise to uphold and defend, as well as the Constitution. Those are the laws that will govern us day by day. If any man transgress the laws, let him go to the court and stand his chance. If the people say you are guilty, there's the law. There's the law. No man takes the laws in his hand. When I not talk about race issue, what no race issue? They have planned the thing, and I know it. They have planned it. But if I had attacked them before, then they would have wanted a chance to say we attacked them. Then I wouldn't have been able to get the support of my people as I'm getting now. I had ideas about it. If I take the position, then they would have been saying that you have not given them their fundamental rights, their constitutional rights. But you see how it is. When you give people things that you feel like you should give them, when they don't appreciate afterwards, you don't give them to the king. Isn't that so? But they don't appreciate it.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Friday Night Debate. This is the 44th anniversary of April 14, 1979. What we know today in Liberia has the Riot. So in tonight's debate, we're going to be looking at the question, has April 14, 1979, Riot in quotation, changed Liberia for better or for worse? We have one group say it changed Liberia for better, another group say it changed Liberia for worse. We want to welcome all our viewers across the globe. This is Friday Night Debate, and we are excited to have you. Introducing for the pro side, that is those who think that April 14, 1979 changed Liberia for better, we have Mr. Isaac Tumon Setro. He's part of the organizing committee for the Progressive Alliance of Liberia, PAL. Mr. Setro, welcome to Focus on Liberia Friday Night Debate. Isaac having a computer problem there. Let me go to another pro side.
Thank you, Mr.
J. Victor Nambwe. Mr. Nambwe, welcome to Focus on Liberia. He's also part of the organizing committee for PAL. He is on the side of the pro. Yes, April 14, 1979 changed Liberia for better. Mr. Nambwe, welcome.
It's good to be here.
Thank you. Let me bring back Isaac. Are you okay now?
He's frozen.
Isaac, are you still frozen?
Yeah.
Let me welcome on the con side those who say April 14, 1979 changed Liberia for worse. I have Massa journalist. It happened to be two journalists on this side. Massa Washington. Massa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. A pleasure always.
I want to also welcome Mr. Moses Sandy from the Issues Room, who says April 14 changed Liberia for the worse. Mr. Sandy, welcome to Friday Night Debate.
Thank you, Dennis. It's always a pleasure being on your platform.
Thank you. Again, let me try Isaac. Isaac, are you okay now?
It's frozen.
Isaac, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you live.
You are frozen, Isaac.
Is Isaac in Liberia?
Isaac is in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and he can't.
Okay.
Isaac, please change your device or do something. We can't wait for you. This is very serious. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is the anniversary of April 14, 1979. At the beginning of the show, you heard President Turbot. And so let's get this started. So the first question here, I will want the pro side to come up with your opening statement. Has April 14, 1979 changed Liberia for better or for worse? Let me bring on Mr. Victor Nambwe for his opening statement. And Mr. Nambwe, this is your first time on Focus on Liberia. We want to offer you a bottle of water and say feel at home.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. Thank you. Good evening, panelists, and good evening to all those who are listening to us tonight. I definitely say yes. April 14 has made Liberia better. To drive through my statement, I think we should look at what happened or what obtained the conditions that existed prior to April 14, 1979, and the conditions that exist now. And I'm glad that the title is in quotes, Mr. Moderator, because I think what happened on April 14 was not a riot. It was a planned demonstration, a peaceful protest that the government of Liberia turned into a massacre. So the riot actually was necessitated by the response of the government. But be that as may, prior to April 14, 1979, sociologically, what were the conditions that existed for the majority of the people? The majority of Liberians prior to 1979 were reduced to servitudes. Men of my age were houseboys. We were always boys. In spite of the fact that some of these people left their wives and children at home, they will come and serve. And this is about 95% of the population. They were serving the 5% of the so-called elite. Politically, same as sociologically, about 5% of the American Liberians control every strata of society: governance, economy, legal, military, you name it. Look, prior to 1979, about 74%, according to the World Bank, 74% of the population was earning about $70 per annum. Compare that in the same period to 4% of the population earning about $3,000. You just do the comparison. You just do that. 74% of the population is living on $70 per annum. I'm not saying per week or per month, per year, every 12 months. Compare that against just 4%, earning 3%. And so the fact that the people even sought to protest peacefully surprises a lot of us, because that was really good enough reasons for anybody to be angry and come out, guns blazing. But notwithstanding, the Progressive Alliance of Liberia organized a peaceful protest against the government's proposed increase in the price of rice. So at $70 per annum, you tell me how many people could afford the increase of rice from $22 to $25, and from $22 to $30 for an imported bag of 100-pound bag of rice. So I say definitely things are a lot better. Look around you. You have a WIA right now occupying the executive mansion. That would have been unheard of prior to 1979. I rest for now, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Nambwe. Let me bring in Isaac Setro. Isaac, are you okay now? I don't think Isaac is ready. All right. This takes me to those who think April 14 changed Liberia for worse. Let's start with Massa Washington. Massa.
Yeah, sure, Dennis. Good evening to all of my co-panelists as well. I actually believe that April 14 changed Liberia for the worse because Isaac gave some background as to what he thinks precipitated the need for the demonstration, but then also I saw a nation that was growing in the ushering in a renaissance. While it is true that you had one party that had governed for a very long time, which is not a good thing. It's good for the governance structure to be flexible for other people and other constituency of people to have the opportunity to govern. But notwithstanding, when you look at the changes that were being put in place by the Torba government, you saw, it was a beacon of hope. I mean, you saw some silver lining in the sky. And the issue of people rioting because of the rice, I think it was a little bit because it was a proposal. The government had introduced a policy where they wanted the country to be self-sufficient in rice, because Liberia was importing rice and Liberia was spending a lot of money importing rice. So the government was trying to encourage local farmers, provide incentives for local farmers, and also encourage Liberians to be more self-sufficient, pay attention more to the red rice. People like to call it country rice. I don't call it country rice, the red rice, which is actually, I think, more nutritious. So the government at the time, under the Agriculture Ministry and the Minister Florence Chenoweth at the time, proposed an increase in the price of the pusava, the parboiled rice that was being imported. And at the time, the rice was $22 an hour, and they were proposing an increase to $26 an hour. But what people also need to consider is that there were some economic changes globally. So prices had increased globally as well, and Liberia was responding to that. And the demonstration was completely unnecessary, because what it did was, it was not a peaceful demonstration. No doubt, I think the leaders of the demonstration intended to hold a peaceful demonstration, but then having the intent to do something good, and then something else happens, doesn't support your intent. So the demonstration ended up being a rice riot. There were massive looting, widespread looting all over the place. Local businesses were being destroyed. Even people's homes, some homes were being destroyed and looted. People, some people were being killed, because I lived on the over at the time with my parents. Of course, I was a minor. And the aftermath of it, when we went like around Jobar Market, I mean, businesses was broken into. People were lying down on the ground where they had, hurt themselves, breaking into, jumping into glass, windows and glass doors. So it was completely chaotic. And in the process, unfortunately, you have, some innocent people died, and all sort of things happening. Now, before the West riot, Liberia was riding high in terms of economic growth. She had a GDP economic growth of 5.5% annually. Following the West riot, the country saw a massive decline in its economic growth from 5.5% to 0.7%. So the West riot was completely not good for Liberia at all. And what it did was, it was actually the precursor and the mother of all destabilization of Liberia, because it led to the coup. The coup led to 10 years of tyrannical regime under Samuel Doe, which eventually led to war and the complete destruction of the country.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me go back to Isaac on the pro side. And Isaac, please switch your camera around to a landscape view, sideways. Oh my God.
I think it was better off. Then they make it vertical.
Isaac, do you know how to put your phone in rotate mode?
Put it in with him.
All right. Give your take first. Yeah. Let's go to Moses. Moses, let Isaac fix this issue.
But look,
Did April 14, 1979 change Liberia for better or for worse?
I mean, obviously, the question is no. I mean, the answer is no. And like Massa said, I just want to further buttress the point where I strongly believe that the Rice Riot, the quote-unquote peace march, was not in the interest of Liberia. Okay? And I would like for us to correct some of the statistics provided by my friend and brother Victor, regarding the Liberia of yesterday. Look, the Turbo era was not a perfect society, and no society globally is perfect. They had their own flaws. Yes, I agree. They ran an oligarchy. We had one political party that governed the country. If you were not part of the True We Party, you were never heard. We all disagree with that. I don't support that. But economically, I want Victor to convince you and I, based on the statistics that he provided. He said, before the Rice Riot, the average Liberian annual income was $70 US. And I want him to tell us, let him help us understand how could someone earning an annual salary of $70 US prior to the increment in the bag of rice, the 100-pound bag of rice. Then a bag of rice in Liberia was sold for what? $22 US. Do the math for us, Victor. Can you? If you do the math, hypothetically, for 10 months, if someone consistently buys a bag of rice, that's $220. 10 months. And you said someone earning $70 a year? That's far-fetched from the truth. Now, let's come back to the issue. I said that the Rice Riot was not in the interest of Liberia, like Massa said. The Rice Riot laid the basis, it laid the foundation for the successive political uprisings in Liberia. Before the Rice Riot, research shows that the average government employee, the average civil servant in Liberia, earned $80 US a month. That was the average. That's what study shows. At that time, people were surviving. Liberia was a peaceful country, stable country. Yes, it was not a flawless society. When the Progressive Alliance of Liberia, led by Bacchus Matthews and the others came, the motive was simple. They wanted a change in government. They took advantage of the destitution of our people. They exploited our young people. They brainwashed them. They put them in the street. It was a proposal for an increment in the bag of rice from $22 US to $30 US. But it had not taken effect. So when the proposal was made, because they wanted people to go back to rice production, they want to encourage our average people to go to rice production, subsidizing the importation of rice. Even right now, as I speak to you, that's one of the most significant challenges the we administration is faced with. Just last year, did you not see women literally jumping over the fence of the Freeport because they want to rise?
Thank you, Moses. Let's keep it brief for now so that we can have more time.
So I'm saying, in summary, the Liberia today that we say is a society, is the Liberia that we say is in peril. That emanated from the work of Dacus, Matthews, and the others. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Setro, I hope we can hear you now.
Yeah, Dennis.
Has April 14, 1979 changed Liberia for better or for worse?
Well, before I say anything, I promised my son I will tell him happy birthday on the show today. He was born April 14, 1995, and he's 28 years old.
Wow.
Now let's get to the issue. April 14 made Liberia a better country. I would like to state 20 facts, and we'll go into the detail. So let me list them. Liberia is a better country today than the old days. 1, in terms of social equity. 2, improved democratic governance. 3, universal access to education. It did not happen in the old days. Special development, more paved roads. 5, higher life expectancy. 6, lower maternity mortality. 7, higher literacy rate in all age bands. 8, increased productivity. 9, lower Gini coefficient. 10, more improved farmer ratio. 11, increased social mobility. 12, lower teen pregnancy. 13, lower teen vulnerability. 14, increased gender parity in education, meaning more girls in school. 15, more fertility means better Planned Parenthood. Women are not having 12 children. Some had 20 in the old days. Better access to finance, more banks and branches. It did not exist in the old days. 18, improved financial inclusion. 19, better and increased variety of dietary ingredients. We are fatter though. We are looking good though. It did not exist in the old days. Very few people used to look good in the old days. I think Moses and Massa can attest to that. 20, my last solid point, we are healthier. TB and leprosy rate at an all-time low. So Dennis, we are better off as compared to the old days because of April 14.
Just quickly, how did April 14, give rise to those things that you just listed?
April 14 gave rise to them because the Liberian people became conscious. And if you read the Natty Sierra Barnett report, Dennis, these were things the Natty Sierra Barnett report addressed. And successive government looked at the Natty Sierra Barnett report and started working on things and making improvement. And with the help of the international community, these things have been taken care of. Look at, for example, in 1979, how many banks we have? Compare the banks we have now in Liberia. Look at the in terms of technology. When I went to Liberia in 2013, I could have access to my account from America. We had that before in 1979. We had that in 1980. Hell no. 2013, when Liberia had access to my entire account through EcoBank, I was withdrawing money. So it made me to feel comfortable in Liberia. So we are better off than the old days. The two-way party had a system where it was lacking. Liberia could not what? Prosper. It was a one-party system. I'm happy today I can call myself a Liberian, Dennis. I'm very, very happy. In 1979 and 1980, I could not. I was a second-class citizen in my own country.
Thank you. I want us to restrict this to 1970, the riot,
Yeah.
and not compare maybe pre-1980 and post-1980, because it's going to be a very big task for us to kind of piece thing out. But let's start with my question here is, and let me start with the pro side. What was the purpose of the 1979, as you call it, quote unquote, riot? What was the purpose, and did it accomplish that purpose? Victor, you start again.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you also, Isaac, for those salient points that you added to the debate. One of the primary objectives of the April 14, 1979 demonstration was the introduction in the Liberian political space of a multi-party democracy. Today we have a flourishing multi-party democracy. I don't think anyone can deny that. As a matter of fact, we now have a multiplicity of parties. I think we have about 30 of those right now that are clamoring for the presidency in Liberia. I tell you this, Dennis, even if we achieve nothing at all, that singular achievement warrants an affirmative yes that things have gotten better since 1979. Now, my colleague Massa was saying this was just a proposal. No, it wasn't. This was indeed a proposal from Ms. Florence Chinoweth, the Minister of Agriculture then, that had been proposed to the national legislature. And the PAL sought audience with the government of Liberia, including the Minister, the Agriculture Minister, the President of the Republic of Liberia, the Minister of Justice, the Minister of State. They were all involved in these discussions so that alternative proposals could be made that would alleviate the crunch that the government was feeling. Yes, rice has always been subsidized in Liberia. We all know that. So obviously the government was feeling the crunch, but there were other alternatives, but the government would not listen. They wouldn't have it. For instance, I give you this. The Minister of Agriculture own report, 1978, reported that the local farmer using traditional methods would profit about $68 from farming an acre of land. $68. But if the process was mechanized using machines, that same acre of land will give the farmer $246, a $178 increase. So the Progressive Alliance of Liberia proposed to the government, look, why don't you make available loans to the farmers so that they will bend themselves in, cooperate and buy machines and mechanize the process so that it will be easier on them. The government refused that. Now, Moses is telling me he's challenging me to prove my assertion that indeed about 74% of the people were earning $70. This is from the World Bank report. I stated that. Go to the 1978 World Bank report on developing countries. Liberia is highlighted in there. I say it again. Prior to 1979, about 74% of the working population in Liberia were earning an annual salary of about $70. Why about 4% of the same population was earning about $3,000? The agricultural minister who was proposing the increase in the price of rice, her salary and all fringe benefit amounted to almost $22,000 per annum. Ms. Chinoweth, that's what she was earning. And you're asking me what was the urgency? Of course, this was a life and death people. The majority of the people were living on subsistence farming. They couldn't even afford to buy a bag of rice. They could not afford to buy a bag of rice. Even then, most of them could not afford to make ends meet. I grew up in Nigeria, I can tell you that. There is a complete disconnect as of today. There is a disconnect between the last farming season to the next harvest season. There's always a shortage of rice because our people never farm enough rice. So then putting the additional burden of increasing the price of rice from $22 to $5 was an increasing burden that the people could not bear. And so the Progressive Alliance of Liberia proposed to the government that, look, let's do 1, 2, 3 instead of increasing the price of rice. These are other options that are available to you. Let's pursue these. And the government will not listen. The government of Liberia took the posture that it will be embarrassed if they were to lift a proposal from the Yana boys, as they refer to the progressive then, to help alleviate the burden that the government was feeling. So they will not.
Mr. Nabo, if you're talking, please go on the other side because you are coming. Yes, sir. No, the opposite side. No, the opposite side. Right there.
Why is it now?
Okay, great.
Okay.
Now, so I want you to end with this.
I also
how did that? I want you to end with this, Mr. Nabo, before I go to the concert. How did the demonstration change anything? How did the demonstration impact now? Because if rice price was from this to this, because of the demonstration, what did we see? Did the price improve or got worse?
The demonstration provided an opportunity for the Liberian people to let the government know that, look, this is not good or this is good. It provided the opportunity to come out and actually protest. This is something that was never allowed previously. Today, we can see, the likes of Henry Costa fill the streets with protests and nothing happens to them. This would not happen prior to 1979. Now, is the price of rice the same today? I don't know. I'm not an economist. If we did the comparative analysis, I wouldn't be able to tell you, but I can tell you this. A majority of the people today can afford rice now than they did in 1979. I can tell you that. I've seen Liberia just this December.
And Dennis, let me buttress Victor before you get to
Victor, you go on that side again. I think you love that side more. No, opposite. Yeah.
Then let me buttress the point the question you asked about the issue of rice. There is no monopoly of rice in Liberia, the production. There's no monopoly. In 2013, when I was in Liberia, I could buy a rice or 25 kilograms for $9.
I want you to always connect that to 79. Is it because of 1979? That's the.
Yes, it is because 1979 we ended monopoly because of the rally. Yeah, there's even the 1970 Brandon report raised an issue about monopoly, where the Tubber family were the only one trying to sell rice in the country. But because of the riot and subsequent events from 1979, you have no monopoly of rice production in Liberia. You can have anybody who will get their permit from the Ministry of Commerce to import rice. In fact, farmers are growing rice in Liberia. So we ended the monopoly because of the rice rally. There's no committee called the Rice Committee in Liberia again, because you had a system where the production of rice was given to certain people. And it created a problem for the price for the average Liberian. But go Liberia now, everybody can import rice once you get your proper document to the Ministry of Commerce. And you can and people are selling rice $9, $10, $16, $22. Then it is because of 1979 rice uprising. People became conscious, people became aware. And based on the recommendation of the 1970 Brandon report, people are making adjustments. And we'll continue to make that adjustment until we get it right and make sure our people can have access to food, rest, and other products. Thank you, Dennis.
If I may just add briefly before
Dennis,
we'll come back to you.
I don't want us to see it. I don't want us to see the event. I don't want us to see.
We're not watching the show. We are we're participating in the show.
Victor, Mansa, hold on. I'm coming to you. I've asked them, and let me come to you. For the concert, the conditions that existed, the rally or the demonstration was announced for rice and rights, right? Mm-hmm. So the conditions that existed, did they actually exist that warrant people to come out to say we don't like what's going on? Or
yeah, Dennis, let me answer that. Yes,
I'm asking Moses and Mansa. Okay. The conditions that caused the people power to organize a demonstration. They don't actually exist.
So this is what I'm going to do, Dennis. I'm going to answer that question, but I'm going to respond to maybe some of the points that Asa was making, and also some of the points that Victor was making, so that our people get the two sides, of the coin. Okay, so Asa had a list of, I think, 20 or more things that he thought that has been good for Liberia since the rice riot. But Isaac, in that listing, Isaac seems to me, he seems to, in his mind, be holding Liberia at a standstill since 1979. That is, he's thinking, because when he says Liberia 1979 didn't have any of these things. Liberia 1979, it didn't do this, it didn't do that. Isaac, everybody on this platform knows that people evolve. The world is evolving, nations evolve, people evolve. So of course, Liberia would not have been at the standstill at 1979 at this time. As a matter of fact, I think it would have been 5 times more, 5 times better and more developed than what it was in 1979, because things evolve, things grow. We have the internet. 1979, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have cell phone. So so I don't know why psychologically you're keeping people hostage, holding them in that 1979 space. And then also I'm listening to Victor and Isaac, and I'm saying to myself, oh my God, after 44 years, it's the same fiery rhetoric that got us where we are today. So you're saying everybody can import rice now. In fact, Liberia has more rice on the market than ever before. Yes, still Liberians are demonstrating for rice. Market women are clamoring all over the place, jumping fences for rice. And what's the quality of the rice? The rate of diabetes, according to the World Health Organization, the rate of diabetes has increased in Liberia because of the poor quality of rice. They got rice called some not done. Children are dying from malnutrition, simple diseases like diarrhea and stuff that were eradicated by the World Health Organization before the rice riot and the coup and the Civil War. They've all come back to Liberia in the full bloom. So the country is dealing with all these now or illnesses of these substandard rice that are on the market. And even with that, the cost of living is so high now, people cannot even afford the substandard $9 for a bag of rice. And I don't know, again, Isaac and Victor got to give us some statistics here, because I don't know of any place in Liberia where they sell a 100-pound bag of rice for $9. I would really like to know, so I can send my family in Liberia there so they can get rice. And what we need to understand is that prior to 1979, let me not go to even prior to 1979. You want us to stick to 1979?
Right, I want us to stick to the rice riot.
Yeah,
rice riot.
Yeah, but the rice riot
and some people are even saying, "Hey, what progressive?" It's not about progressive versus who.
No,
but that's how I look at rice riot.
Right. So, but before I get there, let me just correct one fallacy that people want to make. A history now, they want to make it like a historical fact. Victor, I would like to remind you that Bacchus Matthew was not the father of multi-party democracy. The progressive did not create multi-party democracy. As a matter of fact, President E.J. Roy had established and registered the Independent True Party, separate from the True Party. Then Detour in 1950, Detour created, formed with some of his colleagues, and registered the UPP, United People's Party, and later on it became the Reformation Party, the RP. So multi-party, we already had multi-party democracy, but Bacchus Matthews and the rest of them, they actually made it popular. So I just want this corrected, because people keep saying all the time, Bacchus Matthews is the father of multi-party democracy in Liberia. That's not true. The only thing is the TWP was in power for a long time, but the TWP has not been the only political party in Liberia over time. I just want to correct that. So if you are going to base the basis of multi-party democracy on the basis of how many parties were there, then we will say no. The Bacchus Matthew did not create, multi-party democracy, because we have other registered political parties before. Okay, so the rice riot was bad for Liberia, because it's like I stated earlier, it completely trashed the economy, and then somebody is making a point. I think it's Victor. I
know you respond.
Yeah.
Let me respond to Massa.
Hold on. That's why we're going to have time for counterpoints. I was just asking questions to lay the basis. So let me go to Moses now, because
but then let me correct.
hold on, you have time. You will have time, Isaac. We should have. Let's be able to have time to go back and forth. I want to lay the foundation first. And Moses,
yeah.
for the issues that Barcode Murphys and others were talking about, those issues actually exist? Or what is your main issue against people coming together to have a demonstration?
Well, as someone who respect the rule of law, I think people have the right to assemble, to express their grievance if those grievances are legitimate. Okay, so I'm now opposed to that. But the way it was executed, what are you hearing me?
Yeah, so who determines if the grievances are legitimate?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's going to be based on evidence. You know, if people are coming out to say, hey, there's a hike in the bag of rice and that is impacting our life. I mean, anyone sitting from outside, once something is factual, you don't have to be in the country. You can know. Yeah, people will say, yeah, this is something that people have the right to express their disagreement about. So I respect that. But now let's look at the situation itself. What did it lead to? The implication of the riot.
Right.
What did it lead?
The first thing is the conditions that they were riot that they came to.
That's what I'm saying. Okay,
did they exist or not?
Dennis, I said earlier that the Toba administration or Liberia under Toba or the Tui party was not a perfect society. There were flaws. There were problems. There as we have in today's Liberia.
Like what?
Oh, come on.
Hold on.
No, I want you to be specific.
Yeah, Victor. There were problems. I said it earlier.
Specifically,
we have one group of people. We have one group of people. Listen, we have one group of people that dominated the Liberian politics.
I see.
I agree with that. It's absolutely true. These people or those people led Liberia for over 100 years. I do agree. I do agree that, yes, there were times that people were oppressed.
Is that why they were demonstrating? I want you to make the connection.
So the guys took to the street to protest because they said the government had proposed an increment in the bag of rice from $22 to $30. But before even explaining why I think that wasn't necessary, let me just tell my brother Isaac, look, Isaac, I want to say this to you. This platform, we are seeing globally. And so when you come, you want to be careful with the kind of information you present here. Let's look at some of the data you put out there. You talk about Liberia's life expectancy into this Liberia is better than what it was in 1979. What's your evidence for that? How can you make such a comparison when you have hospitals that remain underfunded? You talk about what? Gender parity? Where's the evidence for that? We have a male-dominated society. You talk about teenage pregnancy. It has decreased. Where's the evidence for that? Are you assuming? Or you just decide to throw out information? That's incorrect. You talk about healthcare. Have you been to Grand Bassa County? Buchanan, the government hospital, budgetary allocation, $100,000 into this Liberia. And you're talking about what? Liberia of 1979? Isaac, you are in error. Now let's come back to this. The rice riot, I said it created more problems for Liberia. Dennis, Massa, Victor, in fact, you were part of the process. You know, as a result of that rice riot, $35 million worth of property. Destroyed. 400 people wounded. 41 persons killed. And you want to justify that? I disagree. The Riot or the quote-unquote peaceful march lay the basis for all the problems we have in today's Liberia. The successive uprisings came from that riot. Thank you.
Thank you. And I still want us to restrict this to Riot. To compare pre-1980 and post-1980, we're not even going to go, even if we spend one day.
But I said brought in the data that does not reflect the reality.
If I may come in real quickly.
No, before you come in, I still want to get from Massa and Moses, because my point here is there was a riot or demonstration in 1979.
Yes.
Massa, was there a good reason for them to organize a demonstration?
I would say at the time, and in hindsight, and on cursory note, that demonstration was unnecessary, even to the point where Dr. Amos Sawyer, who was the godfather of the progressive, who was one, because the demonstration was held by the coalition of progressives. It was Moja, it was the UPP, it was the LPP. But 2 days, before the actual demonstration, Moja pulled out. Because even what's his name, Aberport, who was advocating with them and everything, Aberport and the rest of them, they foresaw that other people, some people wanted a peaceful demonstration, but there were some people in the group who wanted a showdown with the government. It was all about them. They wanted a showdown with the government. Barker Matthew thought that he had the government back up against the wall, and no matter what, he was not going to stop. His aim was to collapse the government. So maybe some of the issues were legitimate, but then the final reason for wanting that showdown was because they just wanted trouble gone, because they wanted power. Don't forget, Barker Matthew wanted to be president. Later on, they all ran for the presidency. So I will tell you something. If an executive member of Moja that I interviewed, I'm not calling his name because I have not asked him to call his name. I interviewed him about the Rest Riot, and I said to him, Aberport, the week of the Rest Riot, Aberport was trying to negotiate between the different people, the government, the progressives, Barker Matthew, and all of them. In fact, amongst the progressives, Barker Matthew was the one who was adamant that it must happen. And one of their concerns was that they were hearing through the grapevine, according to this Moja executive, they were hearing through the grapevine that the government was going to be tough because the government had a pact it had signed with Guinea, and the government was sending for Guinean troops to come and help instill law and order if they need be. So they saw the potential for violence. And so Aberport was trying to negotiate between all the different groups, and Barker Matthew was just adamant. At the end of the day, this Moja executive said he went to Barker Matthew to discuss it and said, we need to work. That's fine. Let's listen to Aberport. Let's meet with the president tomorrow. Let's discuss. Let's see how we can come up with amicable win-win situation for everybody. Barker Matthew, so he said, no, Blow, you can't back out now because we got the government against the wall. We can collapse in. And he said, if we put people on the streets 2 days from now, some people are going with ulterior motive. The government also is not going to back down. What if people die? And Barker Matthew response to him was, well, if people died, we'll put more people on the streets. And he said, but what if those other people you put on the street die? He said, we'll put more people on the street. He said, so we are just, as a leader, we're just going to be putting more people on the streets to die. And he said, the fighting.
Then we need to correct this misinformation.
Thank you. You'll come in. Let it. Martha, you have 30 seconds to conclude.
He said, the fighting for their freedom. And this Moja executive said to him, you are crazy. We're not going to be part of this. This is why, on the final day of the Rest Riot, Emma Sawyer, before the day of the Rest Riot, Amos Sawyer came out, issued a statement withdrawing his support. Obama family then withdrew their support. At the end of the day, it was just the Baker Matthew and his group. And unfortunately, people were rowdy. Okay, the police, they said they were shooting in the air. People end up being dead. So my thing is, I am not saying people die for nothing when they didn't have to. So the Rest Riot was completely unnecessary. People wanted a showdown government.
Thank you.
You have the constitutional right. You have the constitutional right to demonstrate, but the Constitution says peaceful assembly. The Constitution also say you are responsible for the abuse of that right. So if you are a leader and you're putting people on the street and anything happen, you are held responsible. And I think it was irresponsible.
Thank you.
Dennis,
Victor first.
Okay.
Victor first, and then as you respond.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Moderator.
But let's be very brief.
And now you're telling me to be brief, but I gotta tell you, I'm not gonna tell you how to do your job. But I don't understand why you would go to Massa and Moses and come back and go back to them again. I thought you'd come back to us. I just think there's too much time you're giving them. But quickly, Massa asserted that I should show her anywhere in the world where you can buy a bag of rice for $9. I don't know anywhere because I never said that. I
said in Liberia.
Yeah, you said you even said in the world. I never said that.
Well, somebody said rice is $9.
Said that.
Somebody said it. So maybe now you, Victor, sorry, but somebody said rice is for $9.
Well, I said to say because I bought rice from Liberia for my family for $9.
I don't want us to go to this argument of what happened before and what happened now.
So let me tell you this, Moses. Isaac, Dennis. First of all, I think looking at what happened on April 14th in the context of protests over rice, I think is limiting the purpose of the demonstration. The demonstration was in regards to government's insensitivity to the plight of its people. That's how I want us to see it. Now, Massa talk about, first of all, I don't understand why she would leave out Gabriel Bacchus Matthews, who was the leader of the protest, and go and interview a Moja person. Yes, Moja was identifying with the planning, but they were never actively involved. The Liberian Student Union were part of the protest, but they were never actively involved. Now, if I must tell you, it is true that Albert Pope, Bishop Brown, and all these people were mediating between the government and the protesters. But I tell you this, the protest was never even supposed to happen. Matthew and his people had decided to stand down. Unfortunately, this is the age when we didn't have a cell phone, and government denying the protesters the right to the radio, the right to everything. So there was absolutely no way to disseminate the message that, look, guys, let's stand down. If Albert Pope were here today, he will tell you that. But the government, on the other hand, had that authority to put the guys on the radio and say, okay, talk to your people. They refused to do that. So the protest really was supposed to not have happened. By the time our guys got on the compound, the protesters were already there. Even with that, they limited the guys in the confines of the compound. It is the government people who began to turn and provoke the fellows by throwing tear gas and throwing rubber bullets. And that's how people started running helter-skelter. And that's how, of course, the rioting and the looting, out of anger, that's how the whole thing happened. But I'm telling you this, the April 14th protest was a protest over government's insensitivity to the sufferings of its own people. And we enumerated a lot of the examples here. I can give you more. But this is what this is about. As a result of that, today we have a space where I can freely express myself to government, my dissatisfaction, without fearing any consequences. This is a result of the April 14th protest. Now, I know Massa said something about E.J. Roy and all these people. You're talking about a token of multi-party existence of multi-party. We're talking about a truly functional multi-party democracy. When D12 organized the UPP, where did he go? He had to flee to Sierra Leone, only because he dared to protest and challenge the elite. He fled to Sierra Leone twice. Even then, when he came back, the UPP was banned from participating in elections. And that's how he joined with the Reformation Party. Even with that, 60 days before the election, they were also banned because they said they were not in compliance with the regulations. So you can't call that multi-party. We're talking about the ability to organize and freely register a party without anybody asking you a question, which is happening today. And I dare say this never would have happened prior to 1979. That's the argument.
Isaac?
Yeah, and Dennis, I like to piggyback on the issue of why 1979 a protest was in the making. The serious issue of justice, liberty, and equity did not exist in 1979. Dennis, it's not about Toba or Bacchus Matthew. The Liberian people could not experience justice in their own country. It was for the elite two-way party members. And let me be clear. The issue in Liberia was not about Congo and American Liberian. It was about the two-way party desire to what? To marginalize the average Liberian. And that's why the protest was in the making. We needed justice. We needed liberty. We needed equity in our own country. Massa parents needed equity. Sunday parents needed equity in 1979. They did not have it. My parents needed it. My grandfather was an American or Liberian. Okay, so there's not about Congo or Native or Toba or Bacchus Matthew. There's about the average Liberian not having liberty, justice, and equity in their own country. And let's go back to multi-party democracy. How David Como got killed of the Reformation Party by Tubman and his gang because they wanted to crush the opposition party. Is that why you call multi-party democracy massa under the two-way party regime, killing opposition leader? How David Como and his son, who just came from America to visit his dad, what did he know? But because his dad was an opposition to President Tubman. He was killed in bombing. You know the story, Massa. You work on the TRC commission, and you know that story. Say that story here. So we never had multi-party democracy under the two-way party. We had siblings of democracy before 1869 when the two-way party won. You had a Republican Party, but when the two-way party won the election in 1869, they crushed our opposition party because of our uprising, our desire for a change. We have the proliferation of what? Many political parties. In 1979, or George Weah would have been elected president, and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf would have been elected president in 1979 under the Grand Old Two-Way Party. Master, you know. Sandy, you know.
Thank you.
It wouldn't have happened, my brother. So the cause for that protest, by our leader, Pa, was to make sure liberty, justice, and equity reign in Liberia. And today we have semblance of that. You can register your political party. You can ask to demonstrate, Dennis, and you'll be given a permit. When Pa asked for that rally, the two-way party government did not grant them permit. And that was the discussion Abapo was having with the progressive part. Abapo said they have not granted you the permit. We talked to the two-way party leaders, and they refused to grant you permit. And that's how our leader caught up the demonstration at the 11th hour. But they refused, like Victor said, for us for the power leaders to broadcast that to their supporters, because they were already armed to attack the protesters.
Dennis, let me correct.
Let me summarize the issue. The issue
we don't want to take all night.
Yeah, for the power leader calling for that rally was because of liberty, justice, and equity. It's not so much of rights. Liberty, justice, and equity, it did not exist in 1979. Massa no, Sandy no.
Thank you.
But see Liberia now. See Liberia now.
Mr. Jar?
Yeah, thank you. Isaac, Moses, before you come here, I wanted to just ask a question, and then you can use that also to respond to Isaac and Victor. My question is, are we saying this is wrong because of the destruction, and if because people die? Because all of us say is, the Constitution guarantee people to meet and
free
demonstrate.
assembly. Yeah.
So who bears the greatest responsibility in the loss of lives and the destruction of property? Was it the government?
But Isaac, want to get a message?
I say.
So, is that question intended for me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I would say,
I thought it was intended for me, Sandy. Sorry.
but look, the answer is the Progressive Alliance of Liberia is responsible for the destruction, the loss of human lives, because they instigated the process.
How so?
I heard Isaac say earlier that on that day, April 14, Bacchus, Matthews, and the other cut off or they announced the cancellation of the protest. That's not what research shows. The people were already in the street. The people had gone wild. They became law unto themselves. And so you expected the police and the army to sit back and allow people to just break down everything. The government had to intervene. However, I am not justifying that it was right for people to die. But when you have a crisis like that, it is obvious that some people will die, properties will get destroyed. So who do you hold liable? The instigators. That's why Bacchus, Matthews, and the others who instigated that were charged with treason. They were sent to prison. Victor, did you go to prison that day?
No, Moses, but let me tell you this.
Okay.
Let me tell you this. If you read a Neticia Brownell report, the Commission on Reconciliation, which is constituted by the government of the Republic of Liberia, will tell you that the greatest responsibility rests on the government. The report called on the government to prosecute the Minister of Justice, the Minister of Finance, who is Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the Director of the Police, and the Minister of Agriculture for the way they handle the entire process. Now, when we started the program, if you remember, you played the angry voice of Dr. William Aratobo, President of the Republic of Liberia. That was the speech that he delivered on April 19, right after the riot. Yes. Did he sound to you like someone who was in a reconciliatory mood? Of course not.
Are you serious?
The government did not lend itself to any discussion or reconciliation, Isaac. I don't know. Moses is a journalist, but I don't know what kind of journalism he's practicing because it's
but Dennis, man,
Victor, you were adding something. Hold on, Isaac.
I didn't interrupt you. Let me finish.
No, Victor, that is
Moses. Moses, I'm sorry, Moses.
Victor, you were only interjecting because Moses had the flow, right? You were only interjecting. So let
go ahead, Victor.
Yeah, but Moses asked Victor a question.
Yeah, he asked me a question. Yeah. So, but there is so much that has been written about this. You go to Africa Jr., you go to even Front Page Africa. The narrative is there. Of all the events leading up to the demonstration. Powell was not fixing to tackle the government. No. The point had been made and the guys were ready to stand down. It was the government's response that necessitated.
No, that's not true, Victor.
That's true. That's true. That's not true,
Victor. That's not true. The guys were already in the street.
That's true.
Thank you.
That's true.
This is true, Moses.
That's true.
I'm telling you, it's not true.
That's the Liberian masses. That's true.
Thank you.
The only thing Bacchus Mafia was going to agree to was resign.
No.
It was
nobody called for the resignation on top of
why they made that march on the mountain?
Was in France and
Victor, let me come in. Hold on, guys. I think we gotta slow it down because Massa. Today we interviewed Community Wisa, who also took a part, who also was named as a ringleader by the government. And let us be clear with the story. I think the Neticia Brownell report is a very good start, but so far I have not heard through reading about this that the purpose was Bacchus Mafia was having a showdown. In fact, the shuttle of Ivor Port and Ivor Port read that. I have the report here, which the day Monrovia stood still.
It's true.
And in that, he was trying to convince President Turbot. Say, I'm talking to these people. And so based on what Ivor Port is saying, is the government too was also recalcitrant and say, we didn't give them permit, they can't come out. So let us be little more let's look at the report. Let's look at the event that happened. Massa, I want you to tell me where in your reading of the riot that actually Bacchus Mafia, they wanted to show down and they wanted to overthrow.
Dennis, do I have to? Okay. Dennis, there has been so many versions. There's been so many versions of this story. And like I said, excuse me.
Hold on. We just want your
I said you're talking about factual. You just talking things, just at face value. You're talking about factual. You're giving statistics all wrong. Dennis, there is no greater facts than from the horse's mouth. I interview people from Bacchus Mafia Party. In fact, I interview an executive from Bacchus Mafia Party.
Cool, Massa.
I interview Moja people. I interview people from Sawyer, the different group. Okay? And they all told me that, in fact, some of them, on the week of the demonstration, some of them fell over Bacchus Mafia because he was recalcitrant, he was stubborn, he was not going to back down because he told them that he felt that the government was weak and he thought that he had the government in a chokehold and he was not going to back down. Let's not be selective in how the rule of law should work. Okay,
then can we correct that misinformation?
Excuse me. Even in this present day Liberia, even in George, we are government. You get a permit before you go to demonstrate. So you don't have a permit. The government has not given you the permit to demonstrate, but then you got blowhorn, you're making an announcement, you got flyers all over the place, inciting people to come on the street. That is wrong. That is against the rule of law. You don't have the permit. Even in this United States, people get permit to demonstrate. So they didn't have a permit. So if they didn't have a permit, isn't that a direct confrontation with the government when you don't have a permit and you put in, thousands and hundreds of thousands of people on the street? Yeah. So who's going to be responsible for those, for the one person, that died? Who's going to be responsible for the more than 500 people that got wounded, the loss of property of more than $41 million in damages?
Yeah, and Dennis?
Hold on, Isaac. Massa, let me just throw something in there before you continue. This is Ivor Port account. He said the government is responsible for the tear gassing of PAR headquarters, says Ivor Port in the office of PAR on the morning of the fateful Easter Eve, April 14, 1979. I also have here the Netisi Branel report and the recommendations and what they thought was responsible. So I'm not saying your account today. We interview Community Wizard.
Community Wizard is not a credible individual, so I don't see why you can say you interview Community Wizard. Look at Community Wizard through the years. Look at Community Wizard through the years. Why should we be bothered because you interview Community Wizard? Go and interview Dr. Tipotep. Go and interview Dr. Tipotep. Go and interview Dr. Famule.
Massa is an astute journalist, but
you got Victor. They say you got Victor here, you got Isaac here. I consider Victor and Isaac more credible than Community Wizard because
no, Massa, I respect Community Wizard. I respect Community Wizard. You're not going to debate. Massa, you're not going to. It's a credible
it's not an independent Community Wizard. It's not an independent.
I won't have you trying to
Community Wizard is not an independent, objective authority on any of these issues. It's a partisan. It's a partisan voice on these issues.
Massa,
you consider him credible. I'm sorry, Isaac. That's how I feel. I don't consider him credible.
The brother is a credible progressive.
Well, to you. So you consider him credible, good for you, but I don't consider him credible.
Massa, and we don't want to,
Yeah, Dennis?
we don't want to use that time to kind
No,
of
but you keep
speak of
mentioning
other
him as
people.
if to say we're all supposed to stand still when you mention his name.
No, no, no. I'm saying we interviewed him today. This was his account. That's all I'm saying. He was part of it. He was named as one of those rank leaders. So I think we should listen to him when he speaks. We can question what he says. But to say that he's not credible,
it would be nice too if you get a cross fertilization of ideas from other people and not just him. Other people were there. Go and interview some of them too.
What can be more representative than the account of Albert Port? Albert Port said right there on the screen. I want you to also note that he did say at the headquarters of not anywhere around town like Moses was implying that people were all over the place already.
Of course they were in the street, man. It's not implying. It's evidence. I'm not implying anything yet.
Victor, you know, man. Come on, Victor. I say you know. The crowd filter from the all the way down on the street, blocking traffic. Let's not trivialize this thing. People died. Innocent Liberians died when they did not have to.
Of course.
Let's not trivialize it.
I am not trivializing anything, but I'm insisting that we deal with the facts as they are. That's what I'm saying.
Masa, you gotta hold on now. Masa, yes, let us come one at a time because Moses have been wanting to say something.
Yeah,
what I'm saying here, Masa, I don't want you to say this person or you are nitpicking. No.
Can we listen to Commonwealth Wisdom, Dennis?
Hold on, Isaac. I'm showing you from I've interviewed a lot of people on these issues. Okay. And so I'm just recounting, including Albert Port, including the Natasia Brunel report, and what Commonwealth Wisdom told us today. Moses.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I just want us to correct something here. Victor used the word that I was implying. When you imply, you suggest. But when you have evidence, when you have reality, when you have something unfolding before you, that's not implying. Did you guys not put people in the streets of Monrovia?
No, Moses.
And someone made reference to that, you say imply?
No, you know
what is your understanding of the word imply?
No, what I said in Moses, don't attempt to teach me English.
Dennis, I just wanted to provide.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. What I said was this. I said to you, based just on the reading from Albert Port's The Day Liberia.
No, but you said implied.
He said the government is responsible at the headquarters of the PAL. And I'm telling you that the people had assembled at the headquarters of PAL. But you had said people were all in the street.
The people were in the street, Victor.
But this is before, this is afterwards. This is after the fact. I'm saying to you,
the people were already in the street. The situation had gotten out of control. Victor?
Hold on, Victor. So, Moses, give me your narrative of April 14, 1979.
Okay, so I'm saying the Progressive Alliance led by Bacchus Matthews, weeks in advance, mobilized people. On the day of April 14th, people had assembled at the power headquarters and other places in Monrovia.
When you say other places, they have assembled in other places.
They were on Broad Street, they were on Carey Street, they were on Johnson Street. People are all over the place. You're talking about the assembly of people in huge number. And the objective was what? To protest against the proposal from the government for an increase in the bag of rice.
Then what happened?
So when that happened, because the organizers of the rally had little or no control over the individuals that they had already mobilized, things got out of control. The government intervened to try to contain the situation. That's how the police and the airfield soldiers went to the office of power. They ran something on power office. It is true. Yes, they did.
So your account is because they were gathering at power office and other people, let's say, they started looting. They started looting already.
People started looting. People started breaking into other people's properties.
The account I heard was when they started tear gassing people at power office. According to Commonwealth Wizard today, he said other people were coming. Everybody meeting at power office. So while the other people were coming, the police saw them as, the march had already started. But they were actually trying to still assemble at power office. But I was not there. But
Dennis, do you know that Commonwealth Wizard was one of the instigators?
No, it was.
He participated in a protest.
No, he's according to him, he was.
He was.
They were at Cottleton.
Then he was head of Lensu.
He helped to plan it.
The Liberia
and they
National
backed down
Student
last minute
Union.
time.
Commander Wilson was then head of Lensu.
Right,
He was part of the protest.
No, he was in Banga on the day of the protest.
They were all part of the planning, but they back off last minute to time and left Bacchus Matthew and his boss on their own. They back up. It must
all part of the process.
No, the planning of the protest was done by Powell, and it was announced at I think it was Lensu or Moja convention on at the Sport Commission on Broad Street.
That's when Bacchus Matthew announced it.
Various accounts have said how members of Moja, they were not at the time of it, they were advising against it, and in fact, Bacchus Matthew himself, they said they decided to cut it off, and they wanted the radio station. According to Communist Wizard, they said no, use the same leaflet that you use to rally the people. Use the same leaflet to disperse them.
That's not true.
And then what was happening? Were the people not in the street then?
So when they started shooting, when they started tear gassing them, that's what sparked the people running helter-skelter and breaking into stores.
That's not true. Janice, are you going to let me speak? Are you going to let the lone female speak?
Yeah, I was still speaking. Right? So that's the version I heard. Masa, what is your version?
Okay, my version. The Bacchus Matthew coordinated a coalition of progressives. And what people don't understand is that they think when they say progressive, it was just POW. No, the progressive comprised several other, parties. It was Moja, Dr. Famulek, his group, Dr. Sawyer, and what have you. So they were all part of this planning from the beginning to have this quote unquote peaceful demonstration. But then when things started going, when people suspected that it may not be peaceful after all, whether from why? It's because, like I said before, some people in the group have ulterior motive. Some people have ulterior motive. Some people wanted the government gone. Some people wanted, don't forget, when they started the issue about the rice and the price of rice, they brought it down to the issue of Torba, or the Torbas have rice farm. The Torbas are arbitrarily increasing the price of rice because they are the largest producers of rice, and they will benefit. But on hindsight, when you look back now, the Torbas, they have farms. Some of them have farms, but they didn't even have rice farm large enough to have benefited the way people, amplify and hype up the whole situation. Like my grandfather had farms, rice farm. My grandmother had rice farm. My aunts and uncle, they all had rice farm. So, but the incitement where people made it appear like top of them are doing this because they want to continue to subjugate the people. They want for people to continue to be poor. So when you put all those kind of rhetorics and whatnot, them versus us. So people were were incited. So when Apple put Bishop Friends and all these different people tried to mitigate, it was like difficult, on both sides. And don't forget, this here is happening on the eve of hosting or the OAU conference. Don't forget, Liberia was supposed to be hosting the OAU conference when all these things were happening. So you have
one of your version on the day of the upright.
No, I'm just saying some of the reasons why it was so badly timed. And why the government, why the government didn't want to take it like that, because they're trying to plan rather the hosting of the OAU. So much is going into the planning of the OAU. And here you have citizens, Bacchus Matthew insisting that they must have this demonstration, even when other people were saying, well, we all need to negotiate and come to some compromise. Some of them were adamant. Some of them were adamant, and government also was standing her ground. And
Masa, let's use on the day of so you're saying the government was right to disallow the peaceful assembly of the people? Is that what I'm hearing? Because
listen, the Constitution of Liberia calls for the right to peaceful assembly. Right. Okay, but the Constitution of Liberia also gave the government of Liberia, that authority to protect the state, to protect properties, and to protect other people. So if government is getting all this negative feedback, all this hype, and if they think that this thing is really going to go bad and wrong, and then all over the place. In fact, not even the day of the demonstration, the night before, people were, congregating, different places.
But let me go to Victor and Isaac.
People were planning. It's like people were planning for this showdown. So even the tear gas that they say, the tear gas people at the office of power, but they have filter all on the streets, blocking traffic whatsoever. They were on the filter on the different streets. And then you had
thank you.
And the way they planned it, they had people coming from across the bridge to meet them there. They had people coming from They had people coming from Ghana's area. So they were all supposed to converge at the headquarters of PAD and take off from there.
Right.
It was a massive civil disturbance.
Yeah.
All right. I want to allow you to go back and forth, and then we bring in our callers. We have 1 hour, 21 minutes. So gone already.
But look, Dennis?
Victor first, and then you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dennis. The last part that Massa ended with was quite correct. People were coming from all walks of life, but the people were peacefully coming to the headquarters of PAL on Gerda Street. I want to make that very clear. Now, she said, PAL purposefully said it's still on the eve of OAU. This was not mid-April. OAU is in May, all the way at the end of May. Now, the Progressive Alliance of Liberia applied for a permit to Oliver Bright, who was the Minister of Justice. He refused to give them the permit on grounds that PAL was a foreign element. He said PAL was organized by people in the United States and all that, which we all know is not true. So, what the Progressive Alliance of Liberia decided to do was to call off the protest, but as I indicated earlier, the medium by which they could get to the people quickly was non-existent other than the radio waves. And the governor of Liberia refused to allow them to use the airwaves to talk to the people. So the guys peacefully assembled on Gurley Street in the compound of PAL until they were provoked.
Let me interject a little bit, Victor.
Yes.
If their intention was to call off the protest, why didn't they tell the people already at the power office to say, go home, we are no longer having a protest?
Well, because by the time they got there, the government people were already searching the offices. And this is when they realized that the government really was actually fixing for a fight. And they decided then we would defend our yard and defend our property. That's how they stood the ground. But not prior to that. Every single furniture in that building was thrown to shred by the government people. Allegedly, if that is not provocation, right? Then I don't know what is.
Are you saying allegedly?
No, I'm not saying allegedly. I'm saying to you the facts, Moses.
Okay.
I mean, you're a journalist.
That's what I said, allegedly, because you're not sure.
And again, let me announce, if you want to join the conversation, 605-313-6004. The code is 791403#. The question I want us to address now is, so now we have 79, April 14, 1979. Yeah. What did it change? For better or for worse? What did it, because of the riot, what is it that we have or what is it that we have lost? And let us not just look at, okay, there was riot, people died, so, bad things happen. But did it put us on any path, either for justice, either for equity, either for rights, either for how to behave during protests, anything of that sort? Moses, let me start with you, and you can wrap in any other comment you wanted to make.
Yeah, sure. I'll answer the question. The protest on April 14 laid the basis for more civil uprising in Liberia. More violent acts. It was the riot that gave rise to the April 12, 1980 military coup.
Oh.
When Samuel Doe and the others came, they accused the Toba government of rampant corruption. They became more corrupt than the Toba government. In 1985, when Mr. Dole ran for the presidency, he won. We saw another failed military coup led by the late General Thomas Kuompa. When Kuompa came, he accused the Dole administration of massive corruption. What I'm speaking to is in the public domain. After that, after the Kuompa coup failed, you and I know the number of Liberians that were what? Murdered. Even before we go to that, let's go back a little bit into history. When Dole and his people came, what did they do to former officials, the 13 former officials of the Toba government? They executed them. They accused them of greed. They accused them of bad governance. But when they got to the leadership of Liberia, what did we see? We saw people looting the public coffers of Liberia with impunity. We saw the destruction of human lives with impunity. When Mr. Dole became president, what did he do? He tribalized the military. It became a crown military. No, I'm just
giving you. Let me redirect you because
I don't see how
we are talking about
how they can be
1979,
responsible
April
for the
14.
attitude of Dole or even the attitude of we are right now, or the attitude of Ellen Johnson. I don't see how.
Did you follow my discussion?
Oh, your discussion is a complete disconnect.
Yeah, no, Victor. Victor, listen. Let's be respectful. Victor, just let me go back to what I said
people
earlier.
did after 85 when Dole took, in fact, the people that organized it, they fell out with Dole. So let us not.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying here is that it was April 14 that gave rise to successive
because
civil uprising in Liberia. That became a model.
Because it was the first demonstration, is that why?
It was the first that emboldened people to start taking to the street. That laid the basis, people fighting in the name of quote unquote what social justice. When those people assembled to the leadership, or when they ascended to the leadership of Liberia, what did we see? We saw more destruction.
Moses, I'm not a historian, but we had even EJ Raw, there was demonstration, right?
Yes.
Just not when they paraded D2 and all the people in the street. I mean, people have been actually fighting. So this was, I don't believe this was the first time.
The very guys, when those guys, Dennis, when those guys led, the guys who led the April 14 riot, when the PRC came to power, who did they turn to? Marcus Matthews. It's Wema family, Communist Wilson, and the others.
We got a lot of colors lined up to
play key role.
But in the government, give Brian what Minister of Health. She was from the old government. Lucinda Donzo was part of the old government. Gilbert Johnson Toko was part of the old government. So yes, of course, Barton Matthew Family and people there were part of the government. But it was a mix of Liberians. But let me just quickly say that before you go.
Did you follow my discussion? I'm saying to you that April 14 is the foundation, or lay the foundation for successive uprisings, civil uprisings in Liberia. The 14 years of civil war. The 14 years of civil war was what? A brainchild of April 14. The ascendancy of Mr. Charles Taylor to the leadership of Liberia evolved from April 14.
All right, thank you, Moses. That's your point. I want to bring our colors. I said your connection is so bad.
Yeah, but can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, Sunny is giving up misinformation. You had the Sarstan War. You had the Sarstan War where 73 Sarstan chiefs were killed by Daniel E. Howard. When you talking about April 14 is the start of the problem. You had the Sarstan War. Where were you, Mr. Sandy? 73 Sarstan chiefs were killed by Daniel E. Howard.
Okay.
1973, Daniel E. Howard was living.
We are
No, I said 73. I said 73 chiefs were killed in the Sastan War, Dennis. But Daniel Howard, he was president. So I'm trying to provide this information. Let me let
you are off tangent.
Please protect it, Dennis. Please protect
No,
it.
you are off tangent.
Nobody
Riot.
Moses, hold on. Isaac, I want to fix your audio is very bad.
No, but then the man said that that's all the problem. We saying that the Sastan War 73 Sastan chief were killed by Daniel Howard. What was Moses standing? Where was Moses standing? April 14, we all know apology to call for that rally. It was the two-week party government who refused to give up
our discussion to what came after April 14.
And our rally was called because we wanted to fight for
what came after April 14
and equity.
And you're going back to pre-April 14.
We are here to educate the Liberian people. We are better off.
Thank you. Let me bring in my colors. Hold on. Let me bring in
colors. Central, you are completely off tangent. I don't know where you come from.
You are off tangent. You don't have your facts right. You don't have your facts right, Moses. Because
I do.
We forgot about the
period, and you go back to pre-April 14.
Chief of the army. Stand wherever you are. Defend your country wherever you are. And we will work together, not only to defend this country, but we'll build a greater Liberia. This has happened. It has happened for a purpose. And when did it happen? The dawn of Easter. When men of goodwill should be praising God for sending his blessed son to die for us and looking forward to a resurrection. Evil men want to kill God's children, the people of God, the people of Liberia, destroy the prophet. You think God is not on the throne? He's on the throne. He will defend our cause. But he said, watch, fight, and pray. I'm a watcher, I'm a prayer maker, and I'm a fighter. But there must be justice. I am controlled, my friends, in all I do by the laws of our land. And those laws I promise to uphold and defend, as well as the Constitution. Those are the laws that will govern us day by day. If any man transgress the laws, let him go to the court and stand his chance. If the people say you are guilty, there's the law. There's the law. No man takes the laws in his hand. When I not talk about race issue, what no race issue? They have planned the thing, and I know it. They have planned it. But if I had attacked them before, then they would have wanted a chance to say we attacked them. Then I wouldn't have been able to get the support of my people as I'm getting now. I had ideas about it. If I take the position, then they would have been saying that you have not given them their fundamental rights.
That was President William R. Tubman. I think it was.
Did you catch that, Dennis? If I had attacked them before, that's the president of Liberia talking. If I had attacked them before, of course he did attack them. He said afterwards, but that's the prevailing situation that.
It appeared like it was in a
Moses, just a second. Moses, you took a lot of the time. Give me a second here, please.
Hold on. I want to bring in the callers now. They got a lot of callers, people lined up here. Isaac, I'm going to mute you because there's too much feedback in the bag, So that's why I'm muting. There's a lot of feedback. So if you permit me, we have callers here lined up. I want to bring 1 minute each, so at least for 5 minutes we go through 5 callers. Is that fine?
Yes.
All right. Our first caller here is Elvis Morris. Let us be very brief, just 1 minute. Elvis, you are live, sir.
Thank you, Mr. John. Mr. I think hello to your panelists first of all, because I really wanted to take a calm approach on this sensitive topic, but I think you've excited me somewhat. But I just want to say the 73 chiefs that died in the Seskan War, their lives are not less than those 13 men that died on the pole. So when I see people trying to say, "Oh, the 13 men that died,"
we're talking about 79. We're not talking about 1980.
No. This is part of it, Mr. John.
Yeah. I mean, this kind of killing. I don't like people to.
I don't want you to downplay it because this is something that's been hurting people from the southeast.
Don't let it hurt you. When people, hold on. Don't let it hurt you when people die.
That was the worst thing that happened in the country because 13 men died. What about those chiefs? Those were leaders in the community, and they killed them. They assassinated them.
Evans, these are all Liberians. No, Evans, no. No. I don't want you to talk about when people die. We should regret even when that one person. So 13 men, 17.
The people from the southeast, they didn't forget it. They didn't forget it to this very day. That's why the TRC is very important because those people haven't been settled yet. You killed 73 chiefs. You know who started in the community? These are educated guys and mean stuff. We should cry about them. We should cry about these first. We should cry about them. I wanted to take a somber tone, but I think Mr. Isaac, you really lit that fire in me. I wanted to forget about it, but you lit that fire. But I would say this to you guys, Mr. Victor and Mr. Isaac, you guys are some of my political heroes. What you guys did doing that riot, it has changed our country. What a time to be alive today. That some of us can engage in our political system in the country and discuss it. Will Ellen Johnson Sirleaf be president during the true wheat time? Look at the different presidents we've had in our country since then, from different backgrounds. Would they have been presidents during the true wheat time? Definitely not. So things are not perfect, but it opened the door for everybody to participate in our political system. I'll leave it there. But I don't want to get people talking about 13 men dying.
Yeah, please leave it there. I don't want you comparing Liberians dying and thinking that one group is better or not better. Every death is regrettable, so let us not go there, please. Let me go to the next caller here. That's Dennis. Your life. Isaac, there's too much feedback. Please go get off the line and come back in. There's too much feedback from you, Isaac.
No feedback.
Isaac,
try to conduct yourself now.
Isaac, are you Moses, Victor? Are you hearing the feedback from Isaac?
Yeah, Isaac, there's a lot of feedback on your line.
Isaac, please get off the call and come back in to correct this mistake.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Dennis.
Hello, Mr. God, thank you. And hello to all our fellows. Your thank you. I think this issue is getting all of us educated a lot. And even since yesterday, I've been listening to the radio from news outlets, and this is the only story that all of us are hearing, and it's really making us to learn. But I must say this. The 1929 riot, actually, I think I think it was okay. It was right to exist. What we are experiencing after that is we are not learning our lessons. We are not trying to allow ourselves to learn lessons from what we have done and then take the right course. Bad governance is the issue that we are having today, and this is the reason why we are not realizing the purpose for the existence of some of these things. We are not learning the lessons from that to move forward. Today, Liberia, even if you are somebody who has the potential to do the right thing, the society does not even want to accept you. But if you become arrogant and do things the wrong way, you are the one that will be respected. If and only if we're willing to learn our lessons and take it from there, I think Liberia will have been far better than where we are today. If Liberia is not better after the riot, it is because we don't want to learn the lessons. But I think that riot was okay.
Thank you. Let me go to our next caller here. That's John Maulo. Mr. Maulo, you're live.
Yeah, hello, Dennis, and thank you to you and the panelists for the discussion. Listen, Dennis, there's never been a group of irresponsible and unrepentant group of people like these so-called progressives. These people lie to the Liberian people, and they keep on trying to cover themselves with more lies. Let any of these guys tell me which was the first store that got busted. Was it close to power office? It was Brawico, way across the bridge, that they busted into. Nobody shot anybody until they started to bust into stores. And we must keep in context that it was the biggest ever occasion the country was getting ready for. And this Bacchus Mafia was intent on damaging that occasion. And that's what the government knew. And no government, not even in America, it happened here. There was some occasion where the people went, the American people went to demonstrate in front of the FBI office, and they were dragged because there was an occasion happening. You don't do that to any country and expect there to be peace. So they did it intentionally to cause trouble and so that the world would look. And there was a reason why. There was a reason why the government resisted anything from these people. They were a bunch of young kids who just came out of college and thought they knew everything. Emotional competence. The evidence is shown today in our country. Since then, what good has happened in our country? Has our economy got better? Has our livelihood got better? Has any good thing happened in our country? And all of them, every single one of them have had a chance to be in authority in that country. Has any good thing happened there?
Thank you.
We're reaping the effect of what happened then. It was the same thing. The CDC, they knew how to do it. 12 years they were on the street. They got it for 6 years, and they have ruined the country even worse.
Thank you, John.
Same thing with the Bacchus Mafia group. And this progressive needs to atone to the Liberian people and tell them they're sorry for the lies they told them that God wanted to destroy today. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Let me go to Aliyu Kamara.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for the show. First of all, before I continue, let me say all hail progressive, all hail. We want to take this moment to congratulate the progressive movement for bringing a new dawn, for bringing Liberia to a whole different area. Yet it hasn't been easy, but it is okay. It'll get better once. A couple of things. When somebody says, the government wasn't responsible for the lives that were taken during 1979 West Riot. I wonder who had the gun. The progressive shoot among the crowd. Let's just say somebody said, okay, the store was broken all the way across the bridge. Is that reason to kill people because the store is broken? I thought government is supposed to uphold the rule of law. I didn't know government have the right to shoot people once they stole. And when somebody said we had multi-party democracy before, then it's a complete misplace of thought. Maybe you had multi-party, but you have multi-party democracy to understand the difference between the two. But to your question, Dennis, has it changed anything? Yes, it has changed something. Liberians are now in parliament where they are elected by their various constituencies, their districts. Everybody is elected. They're not elected based on their family status in the society. That is progress. Okay, we have multi-party democracy. Now, when Aliyu Kamara can go now and register and run to be president, even though I will not win, but I can run. You understand what I'm saying? So it has changed a lot of things, and we don't have enough time for it. Okay, but thank you so much for having me.
You will not win because you give your support to the party. That's all. Mr. Patel Colley, is that the name? 215 area code, you are live, your name and where you calling from.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis, and the panel. How you guys doing?
Great.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, calling for Tom. Calling from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So I just want to say thanks to the panelists. We can, be a little bit respectful of each other instead of trying to, get into each other. So everyone is entitled to their opinion. Whatever the other guys say, I mean, you can debunk that or, try to make it look any inferior. Because as a matter of fact, the people who are here are not anyone of the April 14 riot. So we are all just using our own sentiments and our own ingenuity to decide what we thought happened on that day. It would be fair to bring one of those people, one of the organizers who are still alive here, and you can bring them up here on occasion like this and just tell us exactly, what happened on that day. And go to your question, to say, has anything changed? Yes. Kudos to the progressive, because for 133 years, we have one sector of our society running everything in the country. There was one party, which is a true weak party, running everything. And because of progressivism today, we can all go to multi-party democracy. I mean, we can all stand up now and have protests based on social changes to effect changes that we like to see in our community. So progressivism have done us good. It was a new day, like Dr. Kamara said. It was a new day in Liberia for us to be able to be chosen on what the legal one as opposed to being chosen because be appointed because our parents were in high places. So this is the beauty of progressivism. So I would like to thank all the participants tonight for your contribution, and I respect each and every one of your view. You are entitled to your opinion, and I'm not going to go down on anyone for what they think. Thank you for allowing me to participate.
Thank you. Let me take Keston's point.
So I would like to thank all the participants tonight for your contribution, and I respect each and every one of you.
Keston, go ahead. Please turn off what you are listening to, Mr. Swain. And
all right, so
just turn off what your device you are listening, watching the show on.
Yeah, so thank you, Danny. This is Swain Dollar for Keston from the Bible, North Dakota. Thank you, and thank you to all of those who. Please turn off what you are listening to, Mr.
Oh my God!
It's monitoring. Yeah.
Mr. Swan, please turn off your device you are watching the show on, so we can hear you. There's feedback.
All right. So, are you hearing me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm Reverend Swan Dollar for Keston from North Dakota. I want to thank all of you for all that you do, particularly for Dennis, for all that you do. I've been following this program forever. So thank you. With regards to what happened after 1979, April 14, I want us to be frank and be very, very sincere with the Liberian people who were alive. I think it was the Agriculture Minister, Florence Chenoweth, who recommended an increase in the rice price. And that was imported rice in order to give the local farmers the incentives to grow more rice as a way of promoting the government's green revolution. That was it. And Bacchus and his people, they now want this to happen. So they decided to demonstrate. There were people who negotiated with the government and told them, well, we need to discuss. I need to call the agriculture minister and let's sit around the table to discuss. But on April 14, they decided to demonstrate against the increase of rice price. So what did we see? Let us be frank with ourselves. They started the demonstration and they started breaking into stores. We saw people take fans, they took rice, They took mattresses and carried them on their heads, and that's how the police came in. Can you do that in the United States of America? No. I listen to Commander Wilson. We all hail from River G. I respect him for who he is. But he needs to be found with the Liberian people. What he told today was not the right thing. And I think Massa said the truth. He deceived our people. This is not what happened that day. It was because of the looting that the police people came in. And has it done anything for our country? No. You can see what is happening now. Now, let me make this correction. The tuna was recommended. He recommended the increase of rice price from $22 to $26, not $30. But I think it's company who measured that today. That was not also true. So then what has happened? How much is the bag of rice in Liberia today? So it did nothing for us. Since that time, I know that there were other demonstrations in time past, like the one that happened in 1896 to 1900, when these foreign powers wanted to take Soin and Bukulu and annex that to Sierra Leone, which made Coman to resign. I'm a student of history. We cannot ignore the truth and tell our people lies. Thank you.
Thank you. The last caller here is Thomas Kane. Thomas, you are live. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, Dennis, and thanks to everyone participating tonight. I mean, as young people, it's always good to listen to them who went through this and who witnessed it for us to be able to learn from them. But to me, I just think we cannot discuss 79 in isolation. I think from the very beginning of the discussion, the issue of marginalization, the issue of poverty in Liberia, and the issue of exclusion, I think were things that were existing, and therefore this just happened to have been a trigger. So I think discussing the riot in isolation, I mean, it doesn't do us some justice in trying to really put a picture of whether it was avoidable or it was something that was bound to happen. Let's say 79 did not happen. But if you had a country that had a one-party system, and I would think that a one-party system was in place because if it would have been opened up, that system of governance would have been changed. If multi-party democracy was allowed and there was voting, one person, one vote, it would have been defeated. And therefore, any political participation was suppressed. So my question to everyone on set was, let's get 79 out, the riot out. Was it ever going to be peaceful for power to transition from the two-way party or for multi-party democracy to be open without any problem? Was it going to be possible at all? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, you heard our callers. I want us to go to lesson learned, but before that, I want to give each of you a minute each to respond to our callers. Let me start with Massa, if that is possible to give Massa 1 minute. You can unmute yourself, Massa.
So you see, you made me put gag order on my own servo. Okay, well, I mean, like all of the callers have said, the good thing about these kinds of discussion is that you get to hear from all sides. We don't all have to agree, about things, but the important thing is we hear from all sides. And I will tell you straight, I have learned, and I have, learned some things from my colleagues, Victor and Isaac. I may disagree with them, but there are some things, that I learned, and they do have some legitimate points and concerns. Not everything they say that I disagree with. So I just wanted to make that clear. But the last caller, I thought he asked a very important question. All of the callers were fantastic, but the last caller, I thought he asked a very important question. And that question is, was it possible for a peaceful transition from the TWP that had ruled the country for more than 100 years at that time? Would it have been possible for a peaceful transition again? I would be... I'm not going to sit here and say yes, but in the meantime, I'm not going to sit and say no. But I will just say, based upon what the president at the time, President Tolbert, because you see, the leadership sets the tone for the rest of the country and what will happen. So Tolbert was probably the most progressive president of our time. He was more inclusive. He believed in young people. In fact, he was accommodating young people in his government. He made a lot of changes. He wanted people to have more access. He was into education. He established bilateral schools in all of the counties. So there were a lot of good things he was doing, and he kept emphasizing that it was time for change. Tolbert kept emphasizing it was time for change because he knew, learning from the winds and wave of change that was sweeping across Africa, he knew that sooner or later there will be active participation of other political parties, that were suppressed, like Victor and Isis said before. So I think, one part of me wants to say, I want to give President Tolbert the benefit of the doubt based upon what I thought he was, and I thought he was good for the country. So maybe, yes, if people had given him the opportunity, maybe there would have been a smooth transition of power from the TWP to anybody else. But then again, because the TWP was so entrenched after all those years, people tend to, when people have been in power for that long, they tend to want to hold on to it, they tend to personalize it. So maybe it would have been difficult. So I'm not going to sit here and say yes or no. Maybe not.
Thank you. For what we say, Tolbert was being pulled in different direction. There was a far right wing of the True Whig Party that didn't want change. And that's why Tolbert himself was a card-carrying member of Moja, they said. Victor.
Yes.
1 minute response to our Masa already spoiled the time, but 1 minute response to our callers.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you to my fellow panelists too, Masa. Thank you, Moses. Thank you very much. I think you challenged all of us to think more deeply about some of our views on April 14. And the callers, I believe, they did pretty good. I think it was the caller before the last who I think kind of misrepresented the facts. The guy who said he's from River G, just as Senator Wisa. The price of rice was being increased from $22 to $25, not $26, for a locally produced bag of rice. And the price of an imported 100-pound bag was being increased from $22 to $30. Now, what was behind this, as we discuss it all the time, is that first of all, the very Ministry of Agriculture had reported that they have projected by 1979, they thought the indigenous farmer would have produced somewhere around 19,500 bags of rice. If you multiply that by the $3 increment, they would have probably got, I think 65,000 bags of rice. I'm sorry, I'm getting it. 65,000 bags of, which would have yielded about $19,500. But on the other hand, it was also projected that the importation of rice, which was in the hands of the elites in Liberia, including some in the government, the increase of $8 with a projection of about $1 million to be imported in 1979 would have netted about $8 million. So you do the math. $20,000 versus $8 million. Because I heard Masa here saying something about greed. Of course, this was driven by greed. So now, once this calculation was made, the proposal was made to the government that, look, there are better ways to do this. You don't have to do it this way. And so the negotiation, it went on for quite a while. But these are the factors that were driving the increase in the price of rice, quite frankly. Because up to today, the majority of our farmers in Liberia are subsistence farmers. They never have the opportunity to bring their rice on the market to sell. It is only the higher ups. The legislature, I don't know about today, but they used to have a farming recess where they would give them recess to go on the farm. Those were the people who were the farmer. President Tolbert in 1978, he won the first place prize in Liberia for being the largest producer of rice in the country. And Moses mentioned the nepotism that the PRC accused the government. Look, somewhere I was looking up today, but look, the Minister of Finance before Ellen Johnson was Stephen Tolbert, Tolbert's brother. The President pro tem was Frank Tolbert, Tolbert's brother. the legislator, Adolphus Benedict Tauber, who was the chairman of Foreign Relations Committee, Tauber's son. I mean, and the list goes on and on. His son-in-law was running the immigration. His brother-in-law was running the Ministry of Justice. If that is not nepotism, I don't know what is. And yet they will not allow the people to protest the iniquities that was being meted out against them. This is how the student organizations, politics on student campus became very powerful, because that was the only medium through which the people could express their dissent. Because I heard someone mention we say all of that, but yes, of course, Linsu and Osu and Coxa, they stepped in to champion the cause, the voices of the people, because the True Party would not allow for dissent. I know Masa was saying she was not sure whether, in fact, they will allow a free transition of power. Of course not. They've done it for 112 years. Why would they do it? They've been holding down, stepping on the necks of the indigenous people for 112 years, from 1886 to 1980. That's how they be in power. And, you know, she's talking about Tauber being, you know, a progressive leader. Of course, Tauber was not. He was all talk and no do. The man believed in slogan, you know, rights to, you know, mattress, whatever, wholesome functioning society and all that. But you go and look at the case between Stephen Tauber and Albert Port. That's where you will see who Tauber really was. A wholesome functioning society? No. He was the Baptist Reverend. He was all that. But he did not yield to the party's slogan of deeds, not words. It wasn't
Thank you. Thank you. Isaac, let's try your audio again. Isaac, your response to our callers. Isaac, please unmute yourself.
He's mute.
Isaac, unmute yourself, please.
We can hear you.
You are muting and unmuting. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to thank Dennis. I want to thank Masa and Mose and Victor for this interesting discussion. And the colors were great. And I think we all were going to learn from this discussion. But I want to reiterate the point that April 14 was not the only upheaval in our country. The Sastan War, 73 Sastan chiefs were killed. 73. And history doesn't report that. So when you talk about 13 people being killed and you compare to 73 Sastan chiefs being killed.
Isaac, nobody is comparing 13 and 73. Let us not go there. Moses
mentioned that, and we got to go back to history so we can correct that. Our upheaval did not start on April 14. So I like the discussion. We are here to educate the Liberian people, the young generation, as well as the old generation who don't know the history. And Masa, you are the darling of our show. Thank you for all those good questions. Moses, Victor, thank you for stepping on. Dennis, you are a great man. But let's get to lesson learned, and then we'll come in to provide recommendation for the future. I'll stop here.
Moses, your response to our callers.
But look, I would like to say that yes, we had a balance in we had balanced views that emanated from the callers, for and against, and I think that just reflected the discussion that we're having here, for and against. Yeah, look, and I still maintain, that would be my final message. I still maintain that April 14, the Riot laid the basis for the polarization of Liberians. The Congo versus country. Today we have predominantly country people in leadership, and we have Liberians being treated like animals. There is no Congo man in control. Natives. We saw that in 1980. We saw that in 1985. We saw that in 2003. And we are seeing it now. The way forward, good governance. We all need to respect the rights of our people, treat our people as human beings. And that's the way forward for a better Liberia. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you. So, have we learned anything at all from April 14, 1979?
Isaac, Dennis, can I
Isaac,
briefly speak to what Moses
lesson
just
learned.
said? Can I?
Isaac, you're freezing again?
I think he's frozen.
Go ahead, Dennis.
Dennis.
Isaac, for lesson learned, have we learned anything from, and how can we use that to benefit the country as of today?
Oh, yeah, we learn a lot from the discussion here today. You got to understand, and there's my warning to President George Weah, that even unfolding from 1979 to 1980 to tell us that the coming elections must be free and fair. We as progressive will not sit down and allow anybody to temper with the rest of the Liberian people to choose their leader in October 2023. Any mistake of anybody to suppress our people vote will be met with stiff resistance by progressive. We did it back then, we can do it now. So we are calling on President Weah and his entire government that they must respect the right of the Liberian people to decide who will lead them in October 2023. We have problems, but we all can come together and fix it. If you listen to the caller, they were of that view. So I'm calling on the government to pay attention and respect. That Moses said, we got to respect the right of our people. There is no time for injustices. We have to come together and also fix the problem confronting our country. Nobody, even President Thomas said, have a monopoly over idea. I agree with that. So there is the time. The lesson learned is that we must come together and do the right thing. I want to thank you, Dennis, and all the panelists on the show for such an interesting discussion.
Moses, have we learned anything?
See.
Yes,
what,
we did.
What the lessons from 1979, April 14?
Yeah, we learned a lot. That evil undermines the peace and stability of any country. And let us use that as the guiding principle in everything that we do. Let me reiterate that the same liberty that I have to work, Mr. Seto should also be given similar liberty. My brother Victor should be treated in similar way. Massa should be treated in similar way. You, Dennis Jad, to be treated in similar way. If I work, I should be paid. I should not be treated like someone who is being like someone is doing favor for me. And that is the Liberia that we have today. Our people work and they are treated like objects. Someone is doing them favor. You have people living in opulence, and majority of the people can barely afford a bag of rice. That's retrogression. We need a change for the better. Let us think. Yes, 44 years ago. We don't want a repeat of that. That's how I would like to wrap it. And let me say thank you, Dennis, for the opportunity. To Victor, Massa, my friend and brother, Isaac, it was a pleasure being here with all of you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Nabwe, lesson learned.
Yes, thank you very much, Dennis. And thank you, Isaac, Moses, Massa as well. Lessons learned. First of all, I wanted to quickly speak to Moses' previous comment about Congo and country divide before I come to lessons learned. I personally, I don't really believe there's any more a true Congo living in Liberia. I know that there are still descendants, but whether we have a true Congo country divide, I question that. What we do have in Liberia, though, we have a class system of the privileged and not so privileged. I went to Cotton. Most of my best friends are descendants of American Liberian. we're best of friends. And then I'm a country boy. I grew up in Monrovia. I went to Tottenham High School. I come from Barrow all the way in Maryland. So most of my good childhood friends, best friends, we're all country people. But when we all get together, we mix, and I don't really believe that there is a Congo country divide as an ideology, as much as I think there is privileged and the not privileged. Lessons learned. I believe that, especially throughout the week, just today, I was in another session with my colleagues in Monrovia, and they had a little event at Deacon's place commemorating the day and all of that. I think we need to the progressives, we need to really begin to actually tell our story so that the younger folks, because this is over 40 years ago. Some of the guys today, most of the majority of the voting population today is less than 40 years old. So a good number of our young fellows are unaware of the sequence of events that got us to where we are today, where a group of young folks can get up in the street and challenge the president and challenge the legislator. Yeka Koluba can get up, and go in the house of the legislature. And then this year, the D2 was expelled from the legislature for doing nothing even close to what Yeka is doing today. So much was done to get us to where we are. And I think we need to really begin to tell our story. We need I think we're too disengaged from this scene. I think we need to do a better job of engaging the younger folks. And I think the fellows today, Alaric and others that saw them out today, group of young folks, they went out to the cemetery to commemorate, those who passed away, whether they were part of the progressive group or not. Whenever someone dies, it's not a good day. So someone mentioned, we shouldn't talk about the 13 people or the 73 people, even the 150,000 people who were allegedly killed during the NPF rising. Whenever a Liberian dies, it's never a good day. Yeah. So the lesson I would take away from this is, yes, we need to step up our activism in telling our own story. I think we allow our detractors to define us, and I think it is not working to our interest. However, I am I was very, very pleased by the callers. I think the majority of the callers here who called tonight, they have a fairly good understanding of the events, and I think they show their appreciation. So thank you very much again for the opportunity. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Massa, and thank you, Isaac, as well as Moses.
Thank you, Victor.
Thank you. Massa.
Lessons learned. Okay, first, I think for me as a person, the first lesson that I take away from the April 14th unfortunate incident, and that I think, it will benefit Liberians if they also learn that lesson, is something called tolerance. We have to learn political tolerance. We have to learn that we are all different, sometimes in the way we see things, sometimes in the way we want things done. But at the end of the day, we have to recognize that it's just that one small country and all of us belong there. All of us belong there. So we have to learn tolerance in engaging each other so that we don't have the kind of turmoil that we've had that's completely destroyed our country and actually further divide us. Because I will tell you straight, I feel based upon experiences and what I see and what I hear when I engage people, if we think that Liberians were really, really divided or pre 1979 and 1980, I think Liberians are more divided now because it's like, all this hatred and all this lack of tolerance is just completely ridiculous. So we should learn some tolerance there. And I think the second lesson learned from that unfortunate incident was that Liberians, to their credit, we're learning to understand the true definition of a peaceful demonstration or peaceful assembly. People are beginning to, I think, more Liberians than not know that constitutional provision that calls for peaceful assembly. Liberians, more likely than not now, will not just easily run on the street like that. Even when people are trying to hold the demonstrations that are anti-government demonstration, they want to make sure they're trying to make sure that they have, their permit and all of that. We saw that with the Council of State Council of Patriot demonstration, the Save the States demonstration. I think it was June 7, 2019, when people were, everybody was sitting on edge because people didn't want another April 14. And we saw finally Liberians coming together, reasoning together, and finally you had, thousands and people on the street, but it was so peaceful. Nothing happened. Nobody got hurt. People, businesses were not looted. Nobody got killed. The government did not have to panic to hurt anybody. So we are learning now as people that there's a heavy price to pay when we are disorderly and when we don't do things properly, and there is something called accountability. So we learned that. And I think it's good for us to have this kind of discussion more. And I just wanted to say something to Victor. Victor made a point that the progressives should tell their stories more and stuff. I absolutely agree with you. But in telling your story, I hope you will tell your story in a way that it speaks or evoke empathy for other people own story, because it is interesting that in this one small place, all of us have our stories, and we have our narrative based upon a different perspective, where we're coming from in our own experiences. So I hope all of us, in telling our stories, it would not be to completely, ignore the stories or journey of other people, but we'll tell our story in a way that it will more or less solidify the peace and make us more accepting of each other, rather than, us versus them versus us. We need to do what we want. So there's a way that we can tell our stories, and it can be different from other people's story, but in the meantime, doesn't completely or invalidate other people or make other people feel like, they need to fight back. I just want to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, we have to learn something. No matter how tragic the situation, we have to learn something. I think we have learned, just like Masa said, that demonstration, one group feeling that before you exercise your constitutional right to demonstrate, I have to allow it, or it is within my hands to allow that. I think we have come to the point that where government too is not trying to say, you can't demonstrate because it's not in my favor, because they are afraid we don't want 79. At the same time, citizens want to be able to follow the process. If there's a permit that is being, that is the criteria, you get it. We also see that demonstration now, is the way, and people want to demonstrate to show that we are not happy with things, and I think that's a good thing. Politics will always continue, and every politician. I was interviewing some guys, and they were so much against 79 demonstration, but they were in favor of June 7. I said, what changed? Every group want to demonstrate, right? And you always want to exploit the vulnerability of the other guy in power because you want power. Politicians, that's all they do. They want power. So it's all about power. I think what I noticed after interviewing people most of the time on these events, I think we have not really gotten to true reconciliation. I think people are standing their ground. Pre-1980, there was a strong country versus Congo, but because we have not reconciled, that's when that was removed, that was replaced by Loma versus Madingo, Crown versus Gio, Sapo versus Crew. So we are still more divided, I think, although the division may have taken another turn, but there shouldn't be, right? I think if we learn nothing at all, we should learn to say, well, we all suffer as a result of all the tragedies that happen. So how can we come together? It shouldn't be progressive are all responsible, or True Weak Party all responsible. We all have a role to play, and we all have things that hurt us. So we must be able to come together and say sorry to each other in the ways that we. I mean, I was kind of little hurt when people start, come, your people died, my people died. Do you think your people died better than my people? I mean, we are not going to move forward as a country that way. Let us use this event to forge ahead as one people. Your closing comment, everyone, and you get 20 seconds because time is fast spent. For this, we start with Masa because she will take more time. And Massa will set the standard.
Why you keep saying that? So you want to tell me that the lone woman,
I know, that was
only 115 pounds, will sit down here and talk above all the young with acid citro? Acid? Are able to talk above acid? But
yeah, let's wrap up. I just want your short closing.
I was muted. I was saying ladies first, Master.
Yes.
Don't
Okay,
think of that.
so definitely, Dennis, let's continue talking. And let me just say to my good friend and brother Isaac, I see you still a strong man, you still fire it. It's good, but tone down the rhetoric a little bit, we're in different times. It's been 44 years since 1979. And if nothing teaches us a lesson, at least with age comes experience. So, tone it down a little bit. Let's hold people accountable, but let's not be too fiery with the rhetorics, because each and every one of us on this platform are leaders, and people will listen to us, and people might want to tend to, do what we say. So let's tone down the rhetorics a little bit. Let's find other means of, let's be more like, a little bit of Martin Luther King and a little bit of Malcolm X. Not all Martin Luther King, not all Malcolm X. So let's try to find a middle point a little bit in all of these. Yeah, let's reach that. Let's meet each other halfway.
Thank you, Massa. Victor.
Thank you, Dennis. And again, fellow panelists, thank you. And thank you to our audience. Yeah, I absolutely agree with Massa. I think we are all Liberians. What affects one affects all. I think we should discuss the negative effects of the demonstration for rights and rights, but I think we should also look to the positives as well. And it seems to me we're spending too much time nitpicking the negatives. The negatives, yes, there was loss of life, loss of property, but the positives also, we have a democratic space now that all of us are enjoying today without any hindrance. I think that's a big positive. Now, as to whether we're using this opportunity wisely, that is another question that would be reserved for another day. Is Liberia better off today than 43 years ago? Absolutely. For some of the reasons that I've just stated. Is Liberia better off compared to its neighbors or the rest of the world? Absolutely no. Absolutely not. There is a lot that has to be done. I have my reservation with, for instance, the current governance pastor in Monrovia. I think there is a whole lot that needs to be done to address the plight of our people. That is a question that all of us here have to address. But democracy is messy. Sometimes it produces the undesirable results. It happens. Look at Hamas, for instance. America has to deal with Hamas because they democratically represent their people. They were elected, That's the government of the day. We, the progressives, we softened the ground, and as a result, we have unlocked, the free-flowing democracy. I think we have a responsibility now to make sure that we provide guidance. Not that we know it all, but obviously, we should still express more fervently when with the right thing is not being done. And I think there is a lot of work that has to be done. But this is a wonderful opportunity to come here and talk about our country. All of us here, like I said, we're all Liberians. We love Liberia. And I think we all are aiming for the same thing. So I want to thank you all very much. I think it was a good experience tonight.
Thank you. Moses?
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I just want to say that, yes, like all of you have said, the discussion tonight was indeed a very good one. It gave us the opportunity to share our individual perspectives on what we strongly believe, April 14 was all about. Look, like Victor said, it would be very unfair If any all sit there and say everything about the riot or everything about April 14 was negative, no. It has some positivity and it also has some negatives. Now, what do? We should use the positives, the positive things that evolved out of April 14 for a better Liberia. The issue of human rights. We cannot afford to miss this opportunity. The rule of law, attending to the needs of our people, treating our people as human beings instead of being, treated like some kind of objects. When you do all of these things that I'm talking about, you don't need to spend millions of dollars on people for public relations. Your work will speak for itself. And that's where we are failing as a country. We need to do better on good governance. So, Victor, Massa, Dennis, Mr. Cetro, I want to say it was a pleasure. I always look forward to such opportunity, team me up with professional people like you, where we can sit together and reason, agree and disagree with some degree of respect for one another. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cetro.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis, for organizing this show. And I just want to also thank Massa. Massa, I follow your work at the TRC. And I want to tell you, I always tell people, I say Massa is one of my heroes. You did an excellent job at the TRC. You stood there until the end of that job. And that job laid a template for where we have to go as a nation. And also, I want to thank the other panelists, Victor and Moses. I learned a lot today from this show.
Thank you.
And now, as we move forward, then let's talk about reconciliation. I agree. But we got to also look at what is happening now. Like Victor said, what is true, we have made progress, but if we compare ourselves to other third world countries, underdeveloped countries, we are backwards. Look at extrajudicial killing in our country as stated in the State Department report. Yeah. We should not be killing each other in our country. We should not. I agree with Dennis.
I thought you said
we need to come together and fix the problem. We need to come together and fix the problem. And that's one of the things I'll be calling for, a national conference of all stakeholders in Liberia. When we call for a national conference, people think we want to change government. No. We want to discuss the short range and the long range plan for Liberia, irrespective of what kind of political party you come from, so that we can fix Liberia. So we got to fix Liberia for our children. Dennis. So I want to thank you guys for such interesting discussion. I learned a lot. I'm ready to take it to my progressive camp. And before I leave, I want to thank our progressive heroes, Bacchus Matthew, Tipote, Oscar Kuya, Dr. Emerson. And I also want to pay tribute to Dr. William Aratobo. We're all caught in a time where we may not have understood, but we are all Liberians. And Dennis, you always playing that song, we are all Liberians. And we must come together and face our problem. Whether you're from this or you're from that. I close with a statement by saying, on April 12, 1980, I saw my mother crying when I was rejoicing. Something happened right there. My mother was crying and I was rejoicing. So it means we need to come and fix our problem as a country so that we can have a better Liberia. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you to panelists very much. I really, really appreciate your time. And thank you for offering your expertise and your skills in discussing this. This is very helpful. Sure. As I always quote Dr. Formula, he says it's better for us to talk than to fight because our mouth than I'm gone. So it's better. I want to thank our viewers also for watching, and even those who will watch later. Always focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. On that note, we're going to end with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Whether you believe April 14 changed Liberia for better or for worse, we are all Liberians. What is incumbent upon all of us now is to do our very best to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Have a good night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.